You see, the most serious threat to democracy in the world is not autocracy, it's hypocrisy. And I'm going to try to tell you in 3 very short stories. The first story is about truth. And it's going to be the story of 2 truth tellers. One was a Saudi by the name of Jamal Khashoggi. I had the privilege of knowing and working with Jamal. I actually hosted him here in Oslo a few months before his murder. The second was a Palestinian by the name of Shireen Abu Akleh. Both were journalists. Both had the job of telling the truth, and both were killed for it. Both of their killers were Western allies. Jamal Khashoggi was killed inside his own country's embassy by an assassination squad. Shireen Abu Akleh was killed by an Israeli sniper who aimed his bullet to land between her press vest and her press helmet while she was doing her job. The leader of the world's most important, most powerful democratic nation, the United States, had the responsibility to deal with the situation. So what did he do? Instead of demanding accountability from his allies, he tried to get Shireen's killers to work with Jamal's killers, and he let both off the hook. Oil and apartheid were more valuable than democratic values. When democratic nations betray the truth tellers, when democratic nations harbor this delusion that stability could come at the price of dead journalists, the cause of democracy retreats and the cause of autocracy advances. The second story is a little speculative, it's a little hypothetical, so I invite you to imagine, visualize with me. Imagine that we're going to send a mission to Mars. And imagine 2 scenarios. In the first scenario, we're going to send 100 people, and we'll give all of them the same education, the same training, the same know-how, and exactly the same resources. In the second scenario, we're going to do the same. We're going to send 100 people, but this time we're going to give only one of them all of the know-how, all of the knowledge, all of the skills, all of the training, and all of the resources. And let's say we leave them, and we come back to check on them a few years later to see which of these scenarios ended up as a dictatorship. The recipe for creating a dictatorship is to trust someone with too much power and then sit back and hope for the best. There can be no democracy without equality, and there can be no equality without democracy. When democratic nations send more and more power and wealth to less and less people, when democratic nations harbor and foster inequality, the cause of democracy retreats and the cause of autocracy advances. The third story is rather personal. You see, I'm the father of a 9-year-old child. My son is smart, he's happy, and like me, he's autistic. A few weeks ago, his mother and I attended a regular development meeting here in Oslo to catch up on his progress. And I sat around the table with 10 very highly qualified professionals who are discussing and obsessing about how to give this child the best chance in life. And I left the room with a sense of pride, but also a sense of sadness. You see, it takes so much effort to preserve our gains, our democratic gains, so that another generation can enjoy them, and so that they can pass it on to their children. But before that, it takes so much effort by so many to raise a child. Since October 7th, 13,000 children have been killed in Gaza. Nearly 30,000 have been maimed. 28,000 have lost one or both parents. 139 have been killed every day. And every single child in Gaza, over 1 million of them, have been traumatized for life. They will carry this trauma all their lives. They're going to pass it on to their children. 40 or 50 or 60 years from now, we're going to be dealing with the trauma that has been created under the watch of the world's most powerful democratic nations. When democratic nations treat some kids as sacred and other kids as collateral damage. When democratic nations defund humanitarian programs to score political points, when democratic nations betray children anywhere, the cause of autocracy advances and the cause of democracy retreats.